Are you afraid? Do you feel a constant sense of unease, a nervousness, a general sort of worry? Or has it escalated into just outright phobia or dread? Do you feel constant tension and anxiety? You don't have to live like this. First, I want to tell you that it's okay. This is actually, I won't use the word normal, but I will use the word common. It is very, very common. It is an easy thing to happen. It is what happens when the mind is allowed to gain control over your experience of life. So as far as the mind's operation, it is actually normal for the mind. I don't want to say the word normal in general because you are beyond your mind. You're beyond your egoic experience. Let me try to see if I can explain this to you so that you can understand the root of what caused this fear in your being. And by understanding this, you will very, very completely and utterly be able to rid yourself of this. Okay? So, there you are a being. This is the most important thing that you need to recognize. You are an eternal being. You are part of the God consciousness. You are a piece of source that came to this earth to experience life in a physical form. You were given an identity, you were given a body, and you were given a mind. Together, all three of these things form what's known as the egoic mind. It is your sense of self. I am this old, I am this gender, I am this nationality, I am this career, I am this personality, I am this preference, this is what I like to eat, this is what I like in a relationship, this is what I like in a job. You have a sense of who you are. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. The problem becomes when you forget the other part of you. When you allow your mind to tell you all the time what you are, then you become completely and utterly identified with that thing. The problem with the egoic mind is that it is a temporary thing. Your body will die, and your personality, your name, your character, your identification will die. Your social security number will expire, your address, somebody else will move into it. Your job, you will leave it. All of that stuff is temporary, and that can really, really start to freak your ego out on some level. Your ego is aware of this temporary nature. On some background level, it's aware of the fact that, oh my God, I'm going to cease existing. I'm going to cease existing on all of those levels. So it's afraid of death, but it's also afraid of losing its identity. What if one day I no longer have this job? What will happen to me? What if one day people don't listen to my position, my mental position, or my opinion? Will I cease to exist? What if one day I no longer have the things that are mine? My house, my car, my objects, but also my family, my relationships, my loved ones. What if they're taken from me? What if my job is taken from me? So your ego develops this constant sort of background hum of fear of its own annihilation. It's kind of normal because the ego understands its temporary nature. So its nature is to dread its temporariness. So you can't really have an egoic mind that isn't constantly afraid. The problem is that you have forgotten who you are. You are your egoic mind. You are nothing but this fearful being. You're nothing but this nervous energy and this narrative of what if I lose, what if I can't, what if I don't, what if it doesn't. And that's all you are. And you're just completely and utterly buried in it. And the solution is to return to that awareness of what you are deeper to it, prior to it, above and beyond it. Because what you are does not come to an end. What you are does not die. Only your body dies. Only your body is born. You need to return to the awareness of the part of you that is eternal. And by being eternal, you'll realize that this part of you is also untouchable. You cannot, the you that you are, the true you, cannot die. Therefore, it cannot be injured. Therefore, it cannot be scarred. It cannot be abused. It cannot be hurt. It cannot be wounded. It cannot cease to be. It cannot lose its importance. It cannot lose its existence. When you shift your identity from the temporary frail part of your being to the permanent undamageable part of your being, you shift the feeling that goes with it. You go from fear, vulnerability, being exposed, being unsure, to being steady, grounded. God cannot be afraid. Source is not nervous. The creator, the great mystery, the thing that created us all, is not perpetually worried about what's coming next. So what you have to do is you have to shift. I recommend that you look at the I Am meditation. I believe it goes under the name number 6 on my channel. Just look through the videos or through the Pain Body playlist. It is a meditation that helps you to feel the feeling of I Am. It helps you to sit in the seat of the observer, in that consciousness that is eternal, and observe the frail ego as a separate thing, not even separate per se, but a thing that exists within your experience. It is not your entire self. You really, really need to ground in that experience. I also recommend that you look at the meditation that I have on my channel called You Are the Sky and Not the Clouds. You need to recognize that no matter how big a cloud, no matter how big a storm arises, even if it erupts into a massive, just explosive storm, it is something temporary that came into your existence, is happening for you to observe it, and will leave your existence. Your identity, your permanent existence is far above and beyond that. So I recommend that you start with those two meditations to help you to shift how much of your time you spend dwelling in the part of you that is afraid. You also have to begin to know, to first think and then feel and then know that you are eternal. You need to do this. So by whatever means necessary, begin reading and listening to teachings that explain the concept of the soul or consciousness and its eternal nature until you logically understand it and accept it. And then after that, you can say, okay, well, I accept it and I believe it. And then after that, you combine that with the meditations and you will start to feel it. Little tiny gaps will open up in your existence where you say, I can feel, I know the part of me. When I really, really feel the real part of me, that part of me doesn't feel like it has a boundary. So it doesn't feel like I start here and I end here. Like this is not the limitation of me. But in the same way that I'm not limited in space, like these are my edges, I'm also not limited in time. I did not begin and I do not end. I exist. I strongly recommend meditations by Mooji, Mooji. Fantastic for getting you to immediately feel that. He will hold presence with you so that you can feel this thing he calls being or I am. And I still consider it the highest form of meditative practice, self-inquiry. Who am I? Find the being that does not change and does not perish. Find that being. Mooji is, to me, the most powerful person who can do this. The other thing that is important in getting rid of this background fear is you are afraid of losing who you are. So that is obviously your identity. This is my job, this is where I live, this is what I do. I have worked with recent retirees who absolutely go crazy because they have lost their position, their title. They no longer introduce themselves with, hello, my name is so-and-so, and this is what I do. They no longer get ready. When they wake up in the morning, they don't know what type of clothes to iron or get ready to put on because they don't know where they're headed. They no longer have a sense of positional identity. I am the boss of, I lead a team of, we are working on a project that is. All of those things, they were under the illusion that those things were who they were for a very long time. And when you pull those things away, they're like, I don't know who I am. Your ego is giving you a background sense of fear around losing these things that you have identified with. I know it doesn't seem very obvious, but it is where the whisper of fear, the aroma of fear is coming from, is your ego has gotten its strength from these identifications. And your ego is perpetually under threat. It either thinks it's going to die, or it thinks it's going to, its identity is going to die. So the easiest thing to do, well, first of all, you want to recognize this. You'll recognize it in theory, and then you'll recognize it by observing your thoughts and by feeling the feeling of fear. Sit in meditation, and again, the meditation called I Am will help you with this. Experience that background of fear and recognize what is happening and go, okay, I see the fear. And then in that stillness, in that observation, you'll see where it's coming from, and learn to see through the tricks of the ego. And also take away the ego's comforts. Take one day, just meet a stranger and they say, hey, what do you do? And you say, oh, nothing really. Just get comfortable not identifying yourself with your job. Somebody has a strong political opinion that you disagree with. Don't argue with them. Say, yeah, okay, cool, I get that. And move on. Not because, those opinions are not important, blah, 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 but your identification with it. I am left or I am right. I am liberal or I'm conservative. I am religious or I'm atheist. I believe in this or I don't believe in that. I love school. I hate school. I believe in homeschooling. Whatever you believe in. It's great to have, you exist as an entity with a purpose and preferences, but you have to let go of your identification with the preferences. So every now and then, just for kicks, pretend to be somebody else. Just for kicks, don't defend your position. Just for kicks, pretend to believe the opposite. Just for kicks, have somebody misassume something about you and say, that's okay, I'm not going to correct the person. Because you're trying to weaken the strength of the identification that your ego has with who you are. And in so doing, you will weaken your identification with the ego's fear of annihilation. Okay. Also, that goes with the fear of being wrong. The ego is quick to defend itself because it doesn't want to be wrong. And the ego is also quick to constantly inform itself so it doesn't hold a wrong opinion. All that kind of stuff is what is causing you to be nervous and to be afraid. And you're like, what? Me wanting to be well informed and to have good opinions is making me afraid? Not exactly. You being identified with the part of your being that wants that. You thinking that is all you are is what's causing the fear, because that part of your being has a flaw in its design. That part of your being constantly is afraid that it will disappear. So when you identify with that being, when you identify with your position, your mental position, you identify with a being that is a mental position and that is constantly afraid that its mental position is under attack and that it is under attack. So your egoic mind is afraid, and you have gotten lost in its fear, right? If you've ever taken care of a child, if you've ever been loving and compassionate and patient with a child as they evolve, you will understand the relationship you have to have with your ego. You're not hating your ego, you're not fighting your ego, but you're recognizing that your ego has limitations. So in the same way that a baby is afraid to touch grass, or a child might be afraid to go into the ocean, or a young child might be afraid to step onto an escalator for the first time, you just patiently say, I get that fear is in your nature, but I still love you and I'm still holding your hand and we're still going on this journey together. But you do not mistake the child's fear of the escalator as your fear. If you start freaking out and screaming at the escalator, then you've gotten lost in your identity, right? So that's what's happening with the ego. So you have to recognize that you're lost with the ego, that the ego is constantly afraid, that the ego constantly seeks reassurance, and you need to fight that. Fight that alignment by not granting the ego reassurance. You need to re-identify with your original nature, your eternal being, and the fact that you will not die. And another thing is part of the background fear that is constantly floating through your being is the fear of loss. Not only the fear of losing your job, your career, your money, your home, or your life, but the fear of losing the ones you love. Now, this is a big one. I remember the first time I truly loved someone, I actually immediately hated the fact that I loved them because it meant I was afraid that they would die. I had never experienced such strong fear in my life. I was like, oh my God, what if they die? And that consumed me honestly for years. I dreamt of people dying for years. I woke up gasping for breath because I was afraid that people would die for years. I was afraid I would die, my loved ones, my friends. Every night I'd have a dream of someone else dying. It's a background fear. There are two things you need to do. One is You need to accept that they will die. Again, like everything, you begin by accepting this in a mental way, and then you accept it in your being with peace and release and surrender. We live in a temporary world. We are all actors who have come upon the stage for a temporary time, and the characters that we play, the play that we're playing, the scene, the curtains will close, the lights will go down, the play will end. And you need to make peace with that. You will never, ever have the reassurance that you are unconsciously looking for, which is that you will never lose them. People die. Pets die. Things die. That's level 1. The second thing, though, which is far more potent, is that you have to accept that you have to understand the true nature of what you love in this being. You do not love your friend who is a woman, who is a teacher, and who is 45 years old, and who is 5'4", and who was born in this state and then migrated to that country and speaks with such and such an accent. That is not who you love. You love the being inside of them. You love their spirit and their soul. And deeper within that, you love the eternal flame of the divine, the one source that connects us all. And you love the actor that is playing this role. You have to begin to understand this and feel this. So you can understand first intellectually and then feel it in your heart. You have to begin to look at that person and see what it is you love in them and recognize that you love the self with a capital S, the one universal, all-pervasive self that exists in me and in you. I really, really love my kitty cat. And wherever I go, if I see a squirrel or a bird or another kitty cat, I see my kitty cat. And I love that other creature in the exact same way with the exact same potency, because there's something in their eyes that I recognize. It is the one unifying thing. So how do you achieve this? You achieve this by finding that one unifying thing inside of yourself. Again, look at the I Am meditations. Do any kind of meditations, especially self-inquiry meditations or the kind of meditations that Mooji guides. And you will begin to understand in your moments of stillness that there is a being inside of you that is playing the role you call you. And when you learn to dwell in that being and love that being, you will learn to recognize that being in others. And you will learn to understand that that being does not have a beginning or an end. That means that you do not die. And it means that your friend, the girl who is, 5'4", whatever, she's not going to die. Her body will die. Her experience in this play, in this iteration of life will end. But her being will persist. Her being will persist inside of you, and her being will persist in everyone else. And her being will persist in other dimensions and other lives, and at the source from where she originated in the very beginning, and to where she will return in the very end. You will never fully ever lose people. You need to go through this kind of self-therapy with yourself, because the fear is in the background of everything, and you're losing yourself to it. The final thing I want to say is that you have to, it's all part of the same thing. The meditations with I Am will help you with this. You have to recognize, you have to recognize that you are identifying with the ego. The ego wants you to identify with it at any cost, even if it means identifying with the fact that it is suffering. Try to follow this here. So something occurs in your mind. A fear, a trauma, a pain, an anxiety, a thought, whatever, a thought. The thought does not turn into suffering unless it's a mathematical equation. Mental experience plus I am suffering equals suffering. The ego inserts itself here and says, I am suffering, I am afraid, I am anxious, I am worried, I am in pain, I am immobilized. And the thought plus the experience of the thought equals suffering. If you remove this, then all you have is a thought. It never finishes the equation. It never leads to equals suffering. It doesn't. So the reason this is happening is because like a child who doesn't want to go to bed, your ego is insisting that you pay attention to it, and it knows that you will pay attention to it if it develops a persona of I am suffering. I know this sounds like I'm belittling you and insulting you, saying you're not really suffering, you're pretending. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that your egoic mind is pretending. You need to recognize that you do not suffer, right? Another metaphor for this that Mooji uses is, if the wind is blowing, no matter how strong the wind is blowing, you will never know that it is blowing unless it is blowing against something. It's blowing against your being, against a flag, against a branch in the wind. Then you notice the blowing of the wind and you say there is a storm. But without something against which the wind can push, then you do not have a storm. You simply have wind. So a mental event, a thought, an experience, an observation, only turns into suffering when there is an egoic mind that suffers. So do you attack the egoic mind? Do you hate the egoic mind? Do you say, why are you like this? Why do you suffer? No. You go back into your being and you find the one who does not suffer. Again, this is done through meditation. Again, I recommend the I Am meditation on my channel. Just believe me that it happens. One day, spontaneously, you'll realize there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. The I that I am, the I, I'm fine. I have always been fine. I did not get healed. I did not get better. I have always been fine. I am fine. So anyhow, I guess it all boils down to meditate on your true nature, which will lead you to understand the illusory nature of the mind and will cause you to observe the mind rather than engage in the mind. I hope this has been helpful. This is part of a 3-part series on anxiety. This is video 2, and tomorrow I'll be releasing video 3. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much, and I enjoy your comments. Have a lovely day.